Shauna K. Welcome back to the next edition of the Facebook and YouTube live series called How Did We Get Here? I created this series to bring you all face to face with some people that I've worked with over the past 14 years. I'll try not to be dramatic this time about that. Over the past 14 years of my entrepreneurship, visionary, and dream building journey, folks that I have touched, folks that I have helped to manifest their big ideas and turn them into tangible things that have ended up changing their lives, all I hope and pray and believe for the better. Today, I wanted to talk to you all, particularly as we're coming up to the end of the year. I really want to get in touch with you guys about this idea. This is my weekly nugget for this week. It is that it is never too late. The bottom line is, I think at this point in the year, it's instinctive for all of us to just kind of start wondering, what could I have done better? What should I be doing? What do I need to plan to do next year as it's coming up like next month? It's in like 2.5 weeks or something. And I want to just encourage you at this season in your life, wherever you are, it's never too late. Last week when we talked about nothing in the journey being wasted. And so here we are now at this season and time where it's like, you know, you could lament kind of not having taken a step over the past 12 months. You could lament over feeling like you took the wrong step sometime in the last 12 months. But the reality is it's never too late for a pivot. It's never too late to go forward. It is never too late to take a step. And that is the whole goal of this show, right? The whole goal is for you to be inspired by somebody else's steps, by somebody else's journeys, not to compare, but just to remind you of what's possible if you just take one step at a time. So this week, our guest is the incomparable, the one and only. I'm just kidding. There is no guest. It's just me. So this week, I'm talking to myself about my own journey of how I got here from where I was. And I cannot wait to share some things with you all. As always, if you have questions or comments, make sure you drop them in the comment section. And don't forget to share this video, this live feed with somebody that you would like to inspire. So after this really quick video, I'm going to come right back and myself, we're going to talk to ourselves. See you in a minute. Finally, you're honest with yourself, like that's not my path. That's not what's for me. Okay, but then what is for you? You're human, you are living, you are breathing, you deserve to live a life you absolutely love. You must believe you are here for a reason. That purpose thing, that sucker sits on the inside of us just waiting for an opportunity to scream out. So now what? What's my next step? I happen to love that video. I'm very excited always to see those like crazy clips coming together in that high energy kind of way. So that was a promotion for my online course, Big Brand Theory. It is open and available right now. Shameless plug right at the beginning because nobody's here but me to talk about stuff. So if you've seen the show before, you know that I typically start out with guests kind of asking them to engage with me around where they've started and kind of the steps and pivotal milestones that they've taken to get from where they were to where they are now. So let's talk about where I am now. I find myself now having worked with entrepreneurs and visionary people and dreamers and CEOs and thought leaders and speakers and pastors and teachers. Lord, the list goes on, to help them cultivate brands. So when I say brand, what I mean is that I'm helping folks get their internal messages out in a way that's curated so that they can engage with their audience, so that they can engage with other people that are going to benefit from their products or services, their thoughts, their perspective, however you want to slice that. So how does that work out in practical terms? People are always like, Shauna, what do you actually do? Right? I feel like that is probably the number one question that I could ask. People are always very confused. They're like, you know, you say you're a brand specialist, you say you're a lifestyle designer. What does that even like mean? So in the brand specialist department, it's very, very, very strategic. It's very much around identifying your audience, crafting a message that's going to appeal to those folks, developing products and services that kind of fit inside of that scope, and then finding a way to communicate with those people, right? So that's it, like in a little bit of a nutshell. And I do that in various ways. So my favorite way is with my VIP day, where I get to sit with an entrepreneur, a business owner, a thought leader, a pastor, a teacher, a dreamer, whomever, and I get to help them go from the bottom to the top of their business structure, plug the holes, fill in the gaps, and help them go from whatever level they're on now to the next level of their business and their business development. It is work that I never thought I would be doing. Like, can I just be real with y'all for a minute? We got time. I'm just gonna be real with y'all. I never thought I would be doing this work. So let's enter my first embarrassing photo. Here it comes. I decided I was going to give y'all the good throwback physical photos. So here we are. This is my 16th birthday. Now, y'all judge me if you want to, right? But this is my 16th birthday. And on my 16th birthday, this smile that you see on my face was certainty. You know what I'm saying? Like, I knew what life was going to be. I was very sure that I was going to go to college, that I was going to be an engineer, that I was going to, follow the path and the steps. And this picture is actually really great because the people that you see around me are those people that influenced me. They rooted for me, and they kind of helped to carve out the path that I was going to end up being on. So you've got my dad, my mom, my grandpa, my grandma. Those four people were so instrumental in kind of shaping what my next steps in life were going to be, right? So that's why this picture kind of sticks out for me. And it was such a pivotal moment. I feel like I knew exactly what the path was going to be. So at this point, I thought I was going to be an engineer. Like, I was going to go, at that time, I was still kind of deciding between which school I was going to, like if I was going to an HBCU or if I was going to a different school. Like, I didn't know. I wanted to be a chemical engineer still. And I ended up at Morgan. I love you, Morgan, but you did not have chemical engineering. It was very sad. So I settled for electrical engineering. But this is exactly, where I was. So then my next kind of not so embarrassing photo is the next kind of real point, tangible point in that process. So I went from, somebody kind of designed for me what my life and my path was going to be. You're good at science, you're good at math, you're a girl, you absolutely have to be an engineer, especially like I'm 39. This was, I was 16 years old. So back then, being a Black woman in the field of engineering, being good at math and science, it was still an anomaly. Not too many years after this picture, I was working at Port Discovery in Baltimore City. And I was like in the lunchroom kind of thing. And I had one of my books out. And I was in college at the moment. So I had one of my textbooks out though. And the guy that I was working with, it was an older gentleman. He looked at my book and it was a chemistry book. And he was just like, did you see this shock and awe? He was so shocked that I was actually studying chemistry. He literally was like, oh, I wouldn't have thought that you would have been studying chemistry. Now, there's probably a million reasons why he felt that way or didn't, but it was really kind of indicative of the time. Like, being a Black woman and being good at math and science and kind of pursuing engineering, we were really just making headway in that area. I have a lot of friends now that have graduated as engineers. They've gone on to have different types of careers and start businesses, but we were really like the first gen, you know what I mean? Like, it was really interesting to be in that time and in that space. And so it didn't really feel like a choice at that time. So like now we live in this age of social media. Back then, Facebook was not even a thing, right? So now we have all this social media where it's teaching rebellion. We don't have to fit inside the confines of any one structure anymore. There's no longer this whole pre-prescribed, go to college, get a job, work for 30 years, retire kind of thing. Now you can kind of do whatever you want. But at that moment, that wasn't it. Plus, I was a teenager. So if your parents said, this is what you're going to do, that's what you're going to do, because I was also from the respectful generation. We knew better. So that's kind of where that was. So fast forward a few years, and I'll kind of, without going into a lot of it, this is my next one. Wait, which way is the camera? Okay. So I always talk about this picture because look at what I had on. This was me, college graduation day. Look at all that crap. I graduated with honors. I was in Tau Beta Pi Engineering Honor Society. I was the current president of Alpha Kappa Mu Honor Society. I had a Morgan Soul that was on there somewhere, but I think I lent it to somebody that didn't have anything. And I always reference this picture because I'm like, I absolutely was on the path, right? Like, this is my, what I would call on the path picture. Now, when I first got to college, the time between when I first got to college and when I graduated was 6 years. I took a year and a half off, which is part of the time that I was at Port Discovery because I prioritized working over the education at that moment. But that's okay, because there's no such thing as a path. That's just a straight line, right? Like, sometimes you got to zigzag through it. But at this moment, I had done it. I had accomplished it. I had succeeded. I had done everything that was initially laid out for me here, like in this kind of time. And please believe me, at the time of my 16th birthday, I would like to tell you, I had been in every engineering camp, every science camp, every math camp. I was everybody's tutor. I had participated. I had done all the things. So this moment, I keep going the wrong way, but this moment was the culmination. It was the moment where I made everybody proud. My grandfather isn't in that picture, but if y'all could have seen that man's face on my graduation day, baby, when I tell you, I could not have made a human being more proud than I made him that day. I mean, it was just bubbling over because everything they worked for, everything they envisioned had hit in that moment. So this picture is pivotal for me now that you have all the backstory, because about a year and a half after that picture, I completely quit. I completely quit my job. I graduated college with 3 job offers from top government contractors. I walked away from a guaranteed thing. I had been working on an internship. I walked away from that to take a different offer that I felt like fit my life and my scope a little bit better and like the area that I wanted to be in. And so a year and a half into it, I absolutely quit. I walked in the office and I told the gentleman that was my manager, I said, "Sir, in 2 weeks hence, I shall not be here." It wasn't that dramatic. But the path to get from this certain moment of like, I did everything that everybody asked me to do, and I thought it was my own vision. And then getting to this place of having worked inside of that curated vision. I graduated from college, and I mean, nowadays, this is kind of like not a big number, but that was 2006 when I graduated from college. So in 2006, graduating, making $63,000 a year was like bonkers. And I quit. I quit my job. And I'm going to stop saying I quit my job. But I did. I quit my job because it didn't feel right. And what I've come to learn over the course of time is that it didn't feel right because it wasn't mine. It wasn't my vision. It wasn't my design. It wasn't what I felt called and purposed to do. It absolutely had purpose because nothing is wasted, right? But it wasn't my design. It wasn't what God had and intended for me. And so then I was able to start kind of recognizing this unsettling, like this deep unsettling that was kind of sitting beneath the surface for me. That, initially I first took the job. I was working in Falls Church, Virginia, which was 40 miles away from where I lived. So I thought it was a commute. So I switched locations. But then when I eliminated what I thought was the misery-making variable, I was still miserable, sitting in a cubicle, just kind of not having the type of human touch and impact and engagement. And that whole experience helped me to whittle out what wasn't for me. And sometimes I feel like my big lesson in all of that is that sometimes it's enough to start just knowing that what isn't right for you at that moment. And that's enough, right? And so I think that's one of the things that kind of made me inspired to do some of the things that I do, like in Marketplace, but also just to even start this show. I think that a lot of times people glamorize the journey. Somebody said that in a comment last week, this whole glamorized idea of entrepreneurship, right? It's not that, oh, I woke up one day and I was wildly successful and whatever. My particular path was a lot of doubt, and was not just a lot of self-doubt, but a lot of people doubting me. People that love and care about me right now today completely told me I was crazy. But and I'm not even exaggerating. You know what I'm saying? How sometimes people will, oh, ha ha ha, that's so funny. No. They were flat out like, this is ridiculous. There's no way that this is like a real calling on your life and you're kind of moving out here by faith, thinking that you're, making God's next step type thing. There's no way that would be what's happening in your life right now. You've lost it. And it's not that they didn't love and care about me. It's not that they didn't mean well. It's just that they weren't inside of me, so to speak, right? Like, so the whole thing with calling and answering calling and pursuing purpose is that it's yours. It's your thing. And you're the only one that's ever going to know exactly when it's right and when it feels right. So even that struggle bus, because please believe me, at every point where I got behind on the bills, the BG&E was about to get cut off, all the stuff was about to get taken back. Please believe me, the return to corporate America was absolutely on the forefront of my mind. At the time, I'm like, oh, I have an engineering degree. I'm still relevant. The problem with supremely technical fields is that a year out, you're not relevant anymore. You got to go back to school and relearn it. In some ways, that was kind of a blessing, because even at my bottom, even at my breaking points, right? When I would apply for jobs, so let me just be very transparent. I absolutely applied for real jobs throughout the course of this entrepreneurial journey, because it gets tough. It really gets tough somewhere in there when you're trying to figure it out and massage the process and find your space and find your voice. And the toughness always kind of prompts this retreat to the familiar. So in my case, the retreat to the familiar was, let me go dust off this degree. I should have brought that out here to show y'all, because I keep talking about it, but I haven't proved that I had it. If we weren't live, I'd get up and go get it right now, but I won't do that. But it's kind of like I had this degree. It's a tangible piece of paper. It's wildly marketable. It's been the plan since knee high to a grasshopper, right? And so then when things got uncertain, that retreat to that familiar, that desire to go back to what I felt like had been the life that was designed for me, got really high. So I applied for jobs. I didn't get that narrow one. Nobody called me back for an engineering job. And so let me pause right here to insert my lesson from that period of time in my life. Sometimes God will not let you have what you are asking for, because he knows better and he loves you too much to allow you to have this thing that is not for you. It's not that having a 9-to-5 is bad, but if it's not for you, then it's not your greatest good. And if it's not your greatest good, it's not what God wants for you. That's the good thing about being my own guest. I can say what I want to say, but that's the truth, right? At the end of the day, we're all kind of searching for calling. We're all kind of searching for purpose and meaning and how we can show up in the world in the greatest and best way possible. So then if you continue to get things that aren't going to allow you to show up that way, well, what good is that? Even if it's a little struggly sometimes in the middle there, isn't it better that you struggle a little right now so that eventually you end up on the other side of knowing, of certainty, of feeling like you're walking in your purpose and divine calling and your absolute birthright? So the cool thing about what I've been able to do with all of this journeying, and then I'll like walk you through my business transition life so that you can hear about the transition of that. But the beauty of what I've been able to do is to close the gap. If you're sensing like misery is kind of pervading in your life, you kind of don't like your job, you kind of don't like stuff that's happening around you, even the business that you've created, and I'll get into that in a second. If it's not all feeling like the right fit for you, what I've been able to do is cultivate systems and processes and programs that are able and designed to help people walk from that place of just being able to acknowledge like, man, I don't like this. Whatever this is, I don't like this. And walk you through the process to get you to a place where you do look up and feel satisfied and love the life that you're living every day. So that's like part one of the Shauna saga. Anybody excited to hear the second part? So in 2007, about a year and a half after this photo, I quit my job. And that's the last time I'm going to say it. And so then what ended up happening was a series of business ventures, right? And I think a lot of people kind of hit this point. You think that entrepreneurship is the answer to kind of quell the desire for more. So you're like, oh, I'm going to start a business. Okay, awesome. So I decided I was going to make handmade greeting cards. I was very craftsy when I was like 10 or something. I had done like a paper/stationery type business. And so I kind of picked that back up and I started making handmade greeting cards. And I had little showcases at my house and I was asking people to buy my little cards. And guess what, y'all? Nobody wanted to buy handmade greeting cards. You know, your friends and family, when you're starting a business, your friends and family, you always think that they're your people. They're your audience. They're going to buy up all your stuff and keep you in business and pay your bills, and you're going to be a millionaire off your friends and family. Child, no. Here's my philosophy on the friends and family thing, right? Your friends and family will probably buy from you once if they're nice. But that's at best, unless they are exactly aligned with who your customer is. Building a business to sell to your friends and family is never going to put you where you want to go, right? So that is, guess where I learned that lesson? Trying to sell handmade greeting cards. Okay. So then it went from handmade greeting cards to I'm going to design business cards. It was a suggestion to kind of like try to revitalize the business. And I'm like, okay, so business cards, cool. So I taught myself graphic design. And then from business cards, it was like, all right, well, how about websites? How about other types of collateral, you know, brochures and flyers and whatever else. So then I ended up having a full-fledged graphic design company. Now, in all of this, none of this is why I left corporate. None of it. Absolutely none of it is why is why I left corporate. It just ended up being the next step on the journey. And I think that part, you know, it's important to note your very next step might not be the last step, but as long as you're taking a step continually, you will ultimately refine down to that thing that matters most to you. Because from handmade greeting cards to graphic design, from graphic design to brand development, right? And branding kind of became the space where I found my home, and I felt like I could help the most people with what I had cultivated from my knowledge, from my experience, from serving people through all this graphic design stuff. Really, what I ended up doing was becoming a brand expert. Oh, snap. That was by accident, right? So it's interesting. I went to school for one thing. I left corporate America for something else. And I ended up doing something that I was then able to turn later into something to serve more people. You know, my big story about why I transitioned from graphic design to brand development is because I had this moment. I had a client in my graphic design company who had come to me for one of her other businesses like 3 years prior. And I designed her whole visual brand identity. You know, we did the logo, we did the business cards, we did the website, we did this, we did that. And her business was chugging along. Now, because I was a graphic designer, there was no like follow-up. Like, I designed your stuff. You're happy with it. Great. Thank you very much. And bye-bye. Right. So there was no ongoing coaching. There was no, here's what you do with this. There's no, here's how to maximize this. It was just like, you called me up. You asked me for this set of stuff. I delivered this set of stuff. Our engagement is now over. The problem was 3 years after I had done that, she calls me up and she's like, hey, have a new business. I want to do such and such, so and so. And I'm like, oh, hey, what's going on? That's great. How's your other business doing? It didn't work out. Well, something kind of clicked for me in that moment, where it was like, but did it not work out because you didn't actually know what to do with the things that you called me up and asked me for? So it was like a big epiphany. Like, if I could have, you know, kind of scripted it like a movie or something, it would have been the scene where the music shifted and like some light came up from the background and it was like a little flashback to some internal monologue type things going on. So it was a very dramatic moment internally. Really, I was just standing on the Starbucks parking lot to everyone else. But on the inside, I'm having this big epiphanic moment where it's like, you got to show people what to do with these things. Having a website and not knowing what to put on it does not feel satisfying to me or for the other person. So that's kind of where the switch came in. It was more about adding value from my experience and my expertise to the world of small entrepreneurs. And when I say small, I don't mean in business size. I mean folks that are just getting started. Not people that have, you know, passed down generations of entrepreneurship in their family, or they have, you know, $20 million as a seed to start some sort of tech company or whatever. It was always about the folks that just had this inkling that starting a business was going to create some satisfaction deep on the inside of them. And so that is where the brand specialist stuff kind of came from. And so now I find myself in this space of being able to serve people in a way that encapsulates everything that I've ever touched into like one fell swoop. Add to that the notion that you can actually be an active participant in the way that your life looks. And it doesn't have to be any one way, which is the lifestyle design aspect of this. Then you kind of have like a complete picture for what I refer to as human flourishing, right? A space where people get to show up as their best selves and live their best lives on a daily basis, because that, by my estimation, is the goal. So I want to give you just like a couple of practical application things. I'm not going to be on here talking to myself long. If you do have questions or anything, feel free to drop them in the comments. I will absolutely save some time to respond to anything that you have. If you're thinking about making a step, don't know what step to take, you're trying to make a move, you don't know which direction to move in, let's talk about that. Now is a good time as any. So a couple of practical application things that I do with clients and people that are taking my course and that I'm engaging with in my cohort kind of model, and just people that I've talked to over the course of time, right? I feel like what happens with people most often is this sense of just kind of being lost. And we started talking about this last week, and I feel really good about picking that up and carrying it just like a step further. You know, it's not about being perfect in the process. It's about engaging in a process. So it's not about being perfect in the process. It's about engaging in a process. That's the biggest thing, right? It doesn't mean that you have to have the perfect answer, the perfect solution, the perfect step. I'm putting air quotes around perfect because that's not even a real word, right? It doesn't mean that you have to have a perfect anything. It just means that you have to be willing to do something. So I feel like the part where I get stuck with a lot of people, or that people get stuck in general, and I'm trying to help them out of it, is that unwillingness to do something, right? I think a lot of times when folks are thinking about purpose and calling and how do I answer my calling and how do I be my best self, Shauna, kind of thing, they're waiting for some sort of lightning bolt to strike them. Almost like to create their own dramatic scene out of a movie or something, where there's some gust of smoke or wind or some writing up in the sky that appears to give them this information, when the reality is what you're looking for is in here. It's completely and 100% on the inside of you. It's not going to come from anywhere external. Nobody's going to come slap you on the back of the head and be like, ah, there's your purpose. See it? Got it? Doesn't work like that. And as we've talked about already, living a life that somebody else has constructed and kind of built for you based on their assumption of you and who you are and who you can be, even if it's well-meaning, even that creates a misfit and a misalignment on the inside of you. So it's not about being perfect, but it is about engaging in some sort of process. This whole thing of growth and development and becoming in life is about process, period. That is it. There is no A to Z in two instances flat. Like, honestly, it is about step up. That's not right. Or maybe part of this is right and the rest of it is crap, and we're going to get rid of that and keep part of it, that kind of thing. And so then the second kind of practical application, aside from take a step inside of a process, is to give yourself an abundance of grace. Listen, if I had rested in some of the internal monologue that comes up when you feel like you're failing, you're watching people kind of advance over the course of time. And now I'm kind of just talking about, traversing this span of time that we talked about from when I was 16 years old up until 39. We're not going to count the math there. But if you're continuously judging yourself for what feels like missteps or failures, then you're going to stop or retreat to what is most familiar, even if it's not right for you. Even if you know it's not right for you, that inclination to retreat kind of overrides and supersedes any progress if you're not willing to give yourself an abundance of grace. So what does giving yourself an abundance of grace look like? It looks like capturing negative thoughts that come into your mind and replacing them with an abundance of truth, right? So truth, a lot of times in my classes, I'm giving y'all this good tea for free. In my classes, I talk about affirmation exclusively, okay? Like 100%. The way to get from where you are to where you want to go is to sit down one day and write down affirming things to yourself about yourself and say them to yourself every day. Now, you don't have to get dramatic and get in the mirror. If you like a little drama, get in your Sunday's best, get in the mirror and talk to yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're on the other end of the spectrum and that feels like it's too much, just sit on the side of your bed in the morning. You do whatever your morning practice is, and inside of that, just talk to yourself positively and on purpose about yourself, making it a part of your actual schedule and not something that you do when you just feel like it, increases its ability to be effective in your life, okay? So giving yourself an abundance of grace really boils down to capturing those negative thoughts and replacing them with very intentional and very strategic positive thoughts about yourself that I would encourage to be in the form of affirmation. And I have a million other things about truth. I'm trying to be mindful of time so I'm not just up, up here rambling. But I really want to take a minute to just encourage you. So my very last question to anybody that would be on my show is there anything that you haven't said that you just want to say to people? And so I feel like I've touched on a lot throughout the course of this, that it's not too late. All you have to do is get in a process and take your next step. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the last step. It just needs to be the next step, right, in the process. But I do feel like I want to say engaging in a formal process is probably best for most people, okay? So I'm going to start kind of close out with this. This is they yelled at me for bringing the physical book. They wanted the picture, but it's okay. It's fine. It's perfect. See, look at that. It's perfect. So this is my textbook for my course, Big Brand Theory. Big Brand Theory is my process. It is my process to help people build personal brands that fully house all their ideas, all their thoughts, all of their vision, all of their dreams, and turn it into something that both answers their calling in life, right? Which we work through and deal with in kind of the beginning part of this. But it's about identifying the calling and then being able to make a living from answering that calling. So Big Brand Theory kind of operates on the premise that you don't have to sacrifice one for the other, right? Like you can both answer your calling and like live from that, so to speak. But it's a process. It's a guided and formalized process for you to be able to take incremental steps so that by the end of it, the person that you look at in the mirror every day is not only somebody that you love, but somebody that you are proud of. All right, monologue from myself to myself, done. And that is my story of how I got here. I really hope that this was insightful for you all. I hope that you gained something from this. I hope that you are inspired to move forward and to take your next step. I hope, pray, and believe that 2022 is going to be the best one that you have had yet. So let me go through all the stuff that I have to say in order to make sure that we're able to do the stuff that we got to do. So if you wanted to work with me, I have a few ways. I just spent a little time talking about Big Brand Theory, so I won't go back into that. But I also have something called the community. I built it for people who are looking to build traditional businesses. They consider themselves absolute entrepreneurs, and they are answering their calling by building a business. You can get all the information about the community at my link. There it is. Thank you so much. And we'll post it in the comments at some point in time, probably after I go off live. The other thing that I have available are my VIP days. Y'all, my VIP days are launching in January. And so right now I'm running them through in beta with a few people. And when I tell you that folks are looking at plans that are taking them from 6 to 7 figures and 7 to 8 figures, that's what it's designed for. It's designed to plug the holes, fill the gaps, and get you some insight on what's already existing in your mind so that you hit the ground running in 2022 and beyond. If you are not sure if you need a VIP day, the community, or Big Brand Theory, make sure you click that link right there to schedule a free coffee chat with me. It's like 10 minutes, so not a lot of time out of your day, and it's completely free. And I will get you on the path to be able to start living out your vision, living out your dreams, and bringing your ideas out of your brain and into the world, which is the goal for 2022. So I thank you all for being here. This has been really cathartic for me. Y'all, is this what y'all go through with being guests on my show? Lord. Well, so it's been really cathartic for me, and I've had an amazing time talking with you all. I really appreciate you all. Make sure you sign up to receive emails from me. Those are starting in January as well. I'm actually going to send one next week. So if you get on it today, you'll get the one that's coming out Monday. It's a, kind of like a preview, not a freebie, a preview, like a preview freebie. We should put that on a shirt. But anyway, so thank you all very much. If you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. If you don't, Happy Holidays, and just a little bit of cheer into your life. And the next time I see you all, we will be in 2022. Don't waste a second of this next week and a half. It is not too late for you to set something up today that's going to spring you into your success for tomorrow. I look forward to seeing y'all on the other side. Thank you very much. Make sure you share it, and I'll see you in 2022.